This podcast contains explicit language.
Bafangu!
This episode of Dorking Out is brought to you by Red Apron. Everything you need except one key ingredient delivered right to your door for just twice the price of delivery food because you want to pretend you're not a crappy cook. Use the coupon code FORKOFF to receive 10% off your first order.
Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go. SPM.
From Assignment X, thesoniashow.com, and Amalgamated Storytelling, this is the Dorking Out Show, the podcast for people who love stories from movies, TV, books, podcasts, and everywhere else.
Welcome to episode
105
of Dorking Out. This is the Contender Deep Dorking Edition. With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith.
Hey, Sonia, how you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Good.
With me today, hello, is my professional, hello. Oh, it's going to be one of those days, huh? All right.
Hola.
Okay. And with, you might be hearing in the background, the new co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. No. Here with me today is my co-host, Sonia Mansfield, author of The Sonia Show. There, I'm done.
Good job. In this episode, we're going to do a deep dorking out of 2000's The Contender, written and directed by Rod Lurie and starring Joan Allen, Gary Oldman, Jeff Bridges, and Sam Elliott. Joining us to talk about The Contender is BFF of the show, Margo D, co-host of the fantastic and one of our favorite podcasts, Book versus Movie. And she also co-hosts the Best Neighbors podcast, which I listen to religiously every week. Margo, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. You know how much I love you guys, and I was thrilled to be asked to be on again. So thank you.
I'm really excited to talk about The Contender.
Yes.
Just in case people don't know what The Contender is about, here's my little summary. The vice president has died, and President Jeff Bridges names Senator Joan Allen as the replacement, but Senator Gary Oldman has thoughts and feelings about her confirmation and digs up some dirt from her past. Would that be accurate? I think that's accurate.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. Is she a governor or she's a senator?
She's a senator.
A senator. Okay.
William Peterson
my
is the
pick.
governor.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I should have listed William Peterson as one of the people in this movie, too, because he does play a key role. So when we reached out to Margo to do this episode, this was like the first movie you brought up, and you were like dying to talk about it. Why do you love The Contender? Or what makes it special for you?
I think because it's a movie I did not see in the movie theater. I think I got it on Netflix when they used to give out DVDs on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big Jeff Bridges fan. I try to be a completist. I try to see everything that he does. And it's just a movie I found at the time, 2000, like really good. It's a great thriller. I loved all of the performances. I bought it the way that it was being sold to me. And so every few years, I was always surprised when people didn't see it or it didn't really do very well at the box office. I don't think it got any nominations at all for anybody. So it's just one of those movies that every few years I would dive back into it. And by the way, he is my favorite movie president, Jeff Bridges, President Jackson Evans. And he's also he's also President Obama's favorite movie president too. So I'm in good company.
Huh.
Yeah. And every once in a while I talk to somebody about it and either people don't know what this movie is or they're like me, like, don't you wish this guy was president? Don't you wish this was real? For like 20 years almost. So that's why I picked it. And now I have to tell you guys, like, I started thinking like, well, I should like also note things that don't work in the movie. So the list is actually a little longer than I expected.
Yeah, well, sometimes, movies speak to us, but that doesn't mean that they're perfect movies.
No.
And I have a lot of movies like that.
Oh, right. Yeah. And, if you guys know me from being on F This Movie, I'm kind of known for like, but this doesn't work and that doesn't work and this doesn't work. And why the hell is that going on here? If that bothers you, I'm apologizing now. Just want you to know off the top, I do love this movie. I always have room for it. I always have time for it. So just know that.
I saw this movie in the theater, but I hadn't watched it since then. So I revisited this week. And I kept thinking about, they just don't make movies for adults anymore. No. Like, this movie is for adults, for grown-ups.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, God, what a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, now this would come out straight to, like, this would be like an FX series or something.
Or like an Amazon movie or something like that. Yeah. It would never have a theatrical release.
Right.
And like you said, because it is clearly for grown-ups. But I mean, it's based on the fact that our character, Joan Allen, they're smearing her by saying that she was basically at an orgy when she was in college. And this is one of the things I checked off. I'm like, boy, they have really great footage from this mid-70s orgy.
That's right.
Right.
Those cameras were really good. For the time.
Yeah. So I love that somebody was like, you know what would capture the moment? A black and white photo would really capture the moment of this
While
orgy.
we're all high and having sex.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Somebody like, it's just.
This
but anyway,
is going in the Christmas card.
I think this woman's going to be a big deal someday. This could be used to my advantage. So they're trying to smear her, and it's a sex thing. And we should put it into context. This movie was made, I think it was 2 years after Bill Clinton was impeached. So that was a big deal at the time. We thought that was a really bad thing a president could
right?
do.
This is downright adorable to what we're dealing with now. Oh my gosh, you guys, she might not be morally fit for the office.
It's almost quaint, is it not?
Right.
You know? And I kind of like the fact that this movie is very much like these are about Democrats and Republicans, and they don't like each other. I think that's very honest, or I think like for the time, this is what we believe in, that's what they believe in. And I do kind of like that moral honesty that they present.
Smith, you've been quiet. What do you think of it?
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, no, I was just letting you guys talk because I think this is, the last Deep Dorking edition that we did was about Big Trouble in Little China, which was Peter Brown's, one of his favorite movies. And I watched it and I was just, I don't know, it's a cult movie that just didn't grab me. This movie, there are parts of it that I really like. Actually, I don't mean to correct anyone, but this was nominated for 2 Oscars for Joan Allen.
Oh, please tell me.
And for Jeff Bridges, but they did not win.
Good.
Well, that's good.
But so and there are moments that I really like. I like a lot of the writing. I like a lot of the back and forth. But to me, there's a couple things at the core of this movie that I just can't buy. And because of that, the whole thing kind of collapses. And I think in a weird way, I think this movie is really not aged that well, given that it was kind of made as part of the political conversation around Bill Clinton and around should he have been impeached or not, should he have acted like that or not. Because I think one of the things I have a lot of kind of feelings coming and going about this. One of the big themes of this movie is something that I totally agree with, which is if you wouldn't do this to a man, you shouldn't be doing this to a woman.
Right.
You guys would never ask XYZ of a man, so I am going to not let you ask me this. But I think in a weird way, she's kind of wanting to use the Bill Clinton defense. A lot of the responses and a lot of the points of logic that Bill Clinton's defenders and Bill Clinton himself used to kind of defend himself through all that. And I think now we know that a lot of those styles, a lot of those defenses, a lot of those thought processes to let men kind of act like that were not done out of some sort of high-minded principle of people should have their own private sex lives or whatever. It was to let them get away with awful, awful actions.
Right.
We've seen, bringing young women up to hotel rooms and flashing them, preying on interns. We've seen with him, that's one of the funny things in the last couple of years is, no, I shouldn't say funny things. That's one of the tragic things.
It's hilarious.
That's right. Is looking back at that in our current context, and with each moment that goes by, I see a lot of my friends on the left kind of go, ugh. Yeah, I forgot he did that. And, oh my God!
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, geez,
I think that's why this movie is so fascinating. Is watching it now.
Yes,
knowing what we know now.
Right, and that's the thing.
This one was like the intentions were so good and noble.
Yes,
but now you watch it and you're like, well, it wasn't really about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was at the time,
right?
Yes.
But it was at the time. And the other thing is, I am not any kind of political connected guy or anything. As you can tell by the eloquent way that I just put that. Excuse me. But I do not believe in any way that any senator at her level, with the facts that we know at the end of the story in this one, I don't think any senator would ever act like that. Man or woman would take that kind of pounding, knowing that she could flip a switch and essentially make all her political enemies look ridiculous and stupid and tawdry and petty.
Right.
I don't. It's kind of like she has the naivete. Well, she's not naive. That's the thing for me.
No, she's not.
Baffling. She's not naive, but she acts like this. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. I am not going to cross this line. Never, ever, ever.
Well, that's Hollywood. That's the movie.
Yeah,
it is.
Right. We want our leaders to be super great and noble and do the right thing. And
right. That's true.
kind of like The West Wing. It's total
exactly.
West,
and I think
it's West Wing porn.
It is. And I think that's the thing is kind of like with Aaron Sorkin. You take The West Wing it's fantasy, it's wish fulfillment, but there's some almost reality to it. This is kind of like, I guess, Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom, if we're going to use the Aaron Sorkin continuation. This is The Newsroom, where the level of unreality is ratcheted up 2 or 3 points beyond what you can believe. And I just, because of that, it just kind of, I had a hard time getting back into it because it was kind of like, a sports movie. Let me step back. I think for any kind of movie, there needs to be this certain level of suspension of disbelief, but also rough plausibility, which is if this exact thing couldn't happen, something like this could happen. And I was trying to find a metaphor, and I think the closest one I got was like if you were to make a sports movie about basketball, and the coaches and the players have all these cool dynamics, and it sounds great and it looks great, but then when they start playing the game, the star of the team grabs the basketball, tucks it under his shoulder like a football running back, and just races down the court. It's like if you can't get the basketball part right of a basketball movie, everything that's around it collapses. And for me, that's kind of what happened here. And I was
totally
bummed.
lost me. Basketball, whatever.
Well, when you said basketball, no, because actually that's one of the things I wrote down that doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
Joan Allen does not know how to dribble a basketball.
I didn't even think of that.
Why was that the thing that she did to calm down and relax when she's obviously not good at it? They couldn't think of she's a fit woman. Look at her. She does something to get that skinny. It's not basketball, and it's not running because she's a terrible runner. When she's running, God, she's weird when she runs. Those scenes are so strange.
Like running under trees and stuff.
This kind of criticism from someone named Brooklyn Fit Chick on Twitter. So.
Yeah, I do. I knew about the body mechanics and stuff like that. And so I'm just like, she doesn't even know what she's doing. It's. Can I give you guys just a little background here? Because Rod Lurie wrote this movie specifically for Joan Allen. And at this time, she was always doing supporting roles.
Right.
She was not a lead. This is her first lead. And I think she is fantastic for the part. She's given a very difficult part to play and very unrealistic, but she's great. But here's my thing. He wrote it for her, and then she and him did the commentary. I actually own this movie, you guys.
Ooh,
and a long time ago, I listened to the commentary, and this is what Rod Lurie says at one point to Joan Allen. Ahem. Once a man becomes a father to a daughter, all of that sexism and misogyny just goes right out the window. And I wanted to write a part for you. And Joan Allen, for all of her good graces, just kind of went, yeah. Which you would have heard my eyeballs rolling on the sound because I just like, are you freaking kidding me, dude?
It's because, most guys, once they have a daughter or actually get to know a woman, they totally just aren't sexist anymore.
That's so gross.
They treat us all equally and all
Yes.
well. Yeah. It's so dumb. So like right then, as soon as he said that, I laughed out loud because I'm sure that's not what he intended, but it's sort of like, it's so anyway.
Maybe that happened for him.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be it.
But literally, come on. Yeah, it's just, I thought that was just completely ridiculous.
It reminds me of back in 2000 when we were all eagerly awaiting the birth of Chelsea Clinton. And then everything turned around for Bill because that's exactly how things happened.
It's preposterous. I mean, it's just, so that's where we're working with, guys.
Right.
So just in case you're wondering where his mind is at. And I do find it very difficult that her whole thing is just like, I'm just not going to talk about it.
Right.
You can bring it up. I'm just not going to talk. And we all know that's not going to work.
Right.
Like there was Fox News back then. There was the National Enquirer back then. You had to talk about it. You didn't like to. It felt demeaning. But man or woman, you would have to talk about it if this came out. If they had photos, you would have to talk about it.
Exactly. That was my thing is she's using the Michael Dukakis defense. This is beneath my dignity. All right, great. Have fun teaching at Harvard when you get destroyed in 48 states. Okay. Have your dignity. I hope it keeps you warm at night, you bastard.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like that's just completely
right.
It's just she would never overcome that scandal with that attitude and with the way and I'm not saying it's the wrong attitude, but I'm saying it's not a successful attitude.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It would never work, and that is part of the reason why. And then let's just go to the very, very end. And there's like my favorite scene followed by my least favorite scene. So what happens is that at the very beginning, I love the beginning. It's William Peterson, Jack Hathaway. He's fishing. He's got a reporter with him in the boat, and then a car just like crashes over a bridge, and he immediately dives in the water. But he can't save a woman from the car that she's in. So the woman drowns and dies. So all of a sudden, he thought, the vice president died. He thought, I've got an easy shot now. I am now a hero.
Right.
And they're going to want me to be vice president. And that would work. That is plausible to me that somebody, it's implausible, but it turns out he faked that. And the woman wasn't supposed to die. So then he's being arrested for planning this and basically killing her. So Jeff Bridges says, you fucked up, buddy, and it goes in this whole thing. I love that scene. And then immediately it goes to a scene where then Joan Allen's like, okay, do you want to know the real deal? And then she explains she didn't do anything. Why did they do that? If she was never supposed to, if it was beneath the dignity, she should have been like, you know what? 20 years from now, we're going to have a beer and I'll tell you everything.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been a better scene.
That would have been much better. Like, keep it blank, keep it whatever your thoughts about it. They sell it all out at the very last scene, which is such a bummer because I do go along for the ride up until then. There's a couple of implausible things, but I am along for the ride. But every time that gets to that point, I get like, oh, come on, Rod Lurie, come on.
It's actually really old fashioned, like the idea of like, and now we're going to solve the mystery for you. We're going to bring all the players into one room and detail exactly what happened for you.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to mention William Peterson. That guy was really good at playing such scumbags.
He is.
Like, I always think of him in that movie Cousins. Did you see Cousins?
I love Cousins.
With like Ted Danson and Isabella Rossellini. He's such a scumbag.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in years. I love that movie.
He always like, we all think he's like Gil Grissom from CSI or whatever. He's a lovable weirdo or something. But I was like, no, back in the day, he played scumbags.
And he did it so well.
He did do it so well.
And Gary Oldman, we have to say, is really good. He doesn't like this part, by the way.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I read that he thinks it's not the villain. He doesn't think he's the villain.
Right. Which is, now that we know Gary Oldman better now, we're like, oh, of course he doesn't think that's so bad. But he hated it. He thought it was like a mustache twirling kind of part. And it could have been, but I think he elevates it. I think he's very believable. And I love the woman that played his wife. They have a scene together that I think that's really powerful. Working with him.
I wrote it down where she talked about, where she says, you're going to go down in history as a second-rate Joe McCarthy.
Yeah.
Like, she calls him out on his bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is such a different scene than what you would expect. Like the wife, I don't know. I guess you expect that she would be like super supportive, but instead at home she was no, you're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think that's the thing that's kind of pinging me about this movie is, and this is going to sound kind of weird because I'm asking for it to be a little bit more realistic, is I want it to be a little bit more like The West Wing. And I think one of the things that The West Wing was so great at is, yes, you know, we would have our Democrats that we, you know, are supposed to be, our heart's supposed to be with them. They're supposed to be doing the right thing. They're upstanding and whatever. But even while they were trying to do the right thing, I'd say two times out of five, they'd get up on their soapbox, they'd give their big speech, and then some Republican that they're dressing down would get up on their soapbox, give their speech, and it would be a better speech. So it would not be like it's always black and white, our guys are always right, their guys are always wrong. There'd be this kind of give and take and back and forth, and I did think Gary Oldman was kind of a little too mustache twirly, a little too, you know, when movies like this, I think, are at their best, it's when you can almost buy both sides. And I thought, you know, I thought it was, and I understand, you know, given the political, you know, what happened in 98 and the impeachment and all that stuff. I totally get calling one side out more than the other, or highlighting the deficiencies of one side more than the other. You know, if he's supposed to be this kind of Newt Gingrich stand-in, I guess. But for the purposes of drama, I don't think there was one point where I was thinking, oh yeah, he might have a point. Look at that, or something. There was nothing.
He's wrong. He's a bastard.
Yeah, but
he's a huge asshole.
Exactly. That's the thing, is he's too much of a bastard. He's too much of an asshole. So like the dramatic tension of, is he gonna win? Is he gonna persuade the day? There's never that possibility. So it's just him battering on her for an hour, and it's I don't know. I
think it is possible that he could persuade everybody, though, because
I think so too.
Because politicians are that petty and stupid.
Actually, you're right, and that leads me to something that I have to point out. You're right. He could persuade people because, but I think he never made a persuasive case on the level of, I don't want to say right-thinking people, but people of goodwill that really are trying to figure this stuff out. Yeah. There was nothing that ever came out of his mouth that was close to being persuasive. He could get a lot of people to go with him, yes, but what I was going to say is, I'm glad that you said that thing about Rod Lurie's, the way he kind of talked down a little bit or mansplained sexism to Joan Allen in the thing, is because there were moments, and I almost said this in my beginning soliloquy, is this feels like kind of a Hollywood liberal guy trying to put on a show and trying to write a part for a woman to get, you know, to touch on some of these issues and make some of these speeches kind of from the left, which is fine, which is good. You know, like West Wing is one of my favorite shows of all time. But then there was that moment where Joan Allen gives her speech about, this is the kind of vice president I'm going to be. I'm going to stick to this. And, you know, I'm an atheist, and that's just the way it is. And I want to go into everybody's home and take out 300 million guns. And then she lists off this fever dream of Republican freakout points.
That I would totally vote for
which,
her,
which I get.
Me
no,
too,
I
me
totally
too.
get. But what we're supposed to do is be watching that and thinking that somehow she's turning the tide. Somehow she's making it, this is her big Mr. Smith goes to Washington speech that melts the hearts of the hardened, and they rally around her. And there's no the idea that anybody thinks that kind of speech would have that kind of effect in this country. Actually, now that I'm saying this actually reminds me a little bit of 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, which is this foreigner comes to America.
We can talk about that movie after this one if you want. I'm down to always talk about it.
This
Me too.
Somebody,
Me too. I agree with you guys, by the way.
Somebody that is not from America, that maybe travels in America and sees some stuff, they're going to write a story of America, but it's so weirdly tone deaf. And that's her big speech, I just thought was incredible.
Well, I think the point is, though, her big speech doesn't turn the tide. They still weren't going to confirm her.
No, but
Jeff Bridges has to go in and give his big speech because they need a man to tell them to do it.
Well, right. Actually, that is my point. Is I know that it's not going to turn the tide of the committee, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're supposed to feel as though it kind of turns the tide of the sentiment of the country. So when the president comes back and says, "You're going to do this," there's some pressure for them to confirm her.
Right.
And I think that speech would have made it. She would have been voted, 99-1 against her after that speech. But I don't know. Perhaps it's just my suspension of disbelief problem with this whole movie.
No. I have to say something else that doesn't work for me, and this is the first time I noticed it, but I'm going through the IMDb as I normally do, and I'm looking at all the actors. Guys, there's literally just one person of color in this entire movie, and they get the very last credit. They couldn't give a sea of white dudes, right? They couldn't give another woman at that seat, or a black person, or a Latino person, or Asian, whatever. It's such a white movie as well. So it's white, male, liberal, whatever.
Her sitting in that
Welcome to
confirmation
Hollywood.
hearing. Her sitting in that confirmation hearing totally reminded me of like all those Benghazi hearings.
Yep.
Like her, like she even looks like Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Sitting behind that table and all these white dudes like questioning her. Like, of course, I kept thinking about that. I wanted to mention a scene that I was like, what an asshole, is when Gary Oldman and Joan Allen have lunch together.
I love that scene.
And he's eating this like huge steak. And he's like, you have to get the porterhouse steak. And she's like, well, I don't eat meat, so I'm just going to have the penne. And he's like, no, you have to get the steak. And like keeps trying to like order the steak for her.
Yes.
And I was like, what a fucking asshole.
I know. I love it, though. I know. He's such a creep.
It says everything about his character, though, and how he views her.
Yes. Oh, I agree 100%. That's the thing. It's their.
And as a vegan, I'm offended.
Well,
he's a steak eater.
as a vegan,
I can let it slide.
Let's be honest, Sonia. As a vegan,
as a woman and a vegan, I'm offended.
Yeah. No, because I've
had people. Yeah, I've definitely had people try to push like food on me. So maybe I relate on another level as well. But that scene, I just thought it said so much about him and how he views her. And you're just going to do what I tell you, and you're going to eat what I tell you. And what an asshole!
I agree 100%, and I think that's what I find most frustrating about this movie is that those little moments. The little observed moments are done so well and communicate so much about characters and just a few offhanded kind of lines and stuff. And it's just, it's perfect. But like the bigger 50,000-foot level is kind of ridiculous. And, I think, Margo, you've talked to some things about this. And that... So I could never. It's like I'm right on the edge of really liking this movie. I'm right on the edge of really getting into it, and then, and then we get to the big scenes that are supposed to be the meat of the movie, and it's just like, ugh, god damn it.
So can I give you guys another example of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because by the way, let me say again, I really like this movie. Like I like 75% of it. I find it enjoyable. Is it good? Who knows? Right. But I find it watchable.
I think it's good. It's definitely
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was glad to rewatch it. I enjoyed rewatching it.
So here we go. So I love this character. Her name is Paige Wilhelmina. And it's Catherine Morris, who I love. She was on a show called Cold Case that I was obsessed with.
Yep.
And so she plays Paige Wilhelmina. And she's this FBI person that's trying to find the dirt about Lane. And she's actually, it turns out and she's very quick. and she's smart. It's very Aaron Sorkin-ish the way she quizzes people.
Right.
Like she just doesn't take, and she's very nice, but she doesn't take bullshit.
Yes.
And she does the job exceptionally well of proving that she's a good candidate, that, you know, she's not the horrible person they're trying to make her be. And so she meets with, I guess it's the chief of staff, is Sam Elliott, and she gives him the dossier.
Oh,
and says,
yes.
"Sir, can I just say one more thing? I think she's amazing. I think she's wonderful. I hope that's okay for me to say." And he actually looks at her and goes, "Actually, no, it's not okay for you to say." So
Yeah, you're right. That was inappropriate.
Lady, yeah,
Yes.
here, competent lady that did everything right, that's smarter than every person she talked to, that's ambitious, that deserves like a pat on the head or back or something. And he just kind of waves her away. Like, okay, we're done with you now. The movie's going to another place. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That really pisses me off. That cheeses me off like nothing else. Because that's happened to me, you know.
Well,
you know, go ahead.
You know, I do have to say, it's perhaps you or my sister from another mister as well, because that was my number 2 example of the little nuanced moments that are observed so well. Because in any other movie, he would do this kind of, oh yeah, let me think about that, and then we would see a shot of him in the chopper mulling it over, and she would have had some impact or whatever. And this one, it's like, you know, I hope it's not inappropriate to say, but blah blah blah, and he just ends with, yes, it was inappropriate. You were right, it was inappropriate, and it's just
slams the door in her face.
Well, he slams the door in her face, but that's a very real. You know, because I've seen some people in positions of political power, and sometimes behind the scenes, they can kind of do that, which is, I'm up here, you're down there, you don't, you know, I have to pretend like you can talk to me, but I don't really think you can talk to me. And, you know, and when they're out of camera range or no one's looking, they will be incredibly petty, incredibly shitty, incredibly mean, incredibly thoughtless. And, I just thought that was fantastic, and it's just like those little moments that I really like. But that does bring me to one thing that distracted me like nothing else in this movie.
Was it the fact that Sam Elliott doesn't have his mustache?
Yes! That's exactly it! He's got this weird...
He looks so different.
He's got this...
so weird. The whole time I was like, why doesn't he have his mustache? It's so weird.
But that's the thing, is he's got... Now I know why he has the mustache. Because he's got this weird inverted triangle of skin under his nose with this little flap of skin. He looks like... He really does look like a Muppet. And his name in the movie is Kermit Newman, and maybe I was just distracted. Maybe I will always be distracted by Muppets and Muppet-related things, but every time he was on screen, I was looking for that little flap of lip and whatever. It was just, I'm sorry.
I kept waiting for him to put on his cowboy hat and for Jeff Bridges to come out in a bathrobe.
Yeah.
That's right.
That or I think of Mask. Like I expect him to just go on a motorcycle and just like, take off and stuff. Yeah. On a hog, excuse me, and take off with a leather vest.
It's so funny with Jeff Bridges in this movie, too, because he's not, this is like pre the dude, obviously, but he is very dude-ish in this movie.
It's post-dude.
Like, is it?
Yeah, same year. Or
oh my God.
The dude came out in like 98 or 99, so it's post-dude.
For some reason I had it reversed. But no. He is a little dude-ish in this movie with the president.
Absolutely.
And his like weird obsession with the food.
I like the obsession with the food, yeah. I ordered a shark sandwich. What do you think?
That's right.
I know.
They'll make anything you want.
Yeah, what did you think of Christian Slater? What did you think of his part?
I just thought, I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
Smith's laughing at me because I was like, oh.
No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing at both of us because we have nothing to say.
Like, what was Christian Slater doing at the time? Let's look it up because
he was doing. I think that's the thing.
Because he was kind of like on the, he was like teen heartthrob. He did like, he did Heathers and Pump Up the Volume and stuff like that. And I'm like, but did he do a lot of like grown-up roles?
No, I think this
around
is
this time.
I think this is when he was starting.
It was kind of weird for him to do like a supporting role, right?
Yeah. So he did The Contender, then he did 3,000 Miles to Graceland, then he did Who is Cletus Tout, Zoolander. So he was starting to, go in. He was starting to kind of lose it a little bit in terms of his. He was riding the downslope of his career, I would guess. You know, he wasn't the teen heartthrob anymore. He wasn't the the hot young up and coming star. He was just kind of going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt too.
By the way, we should do a show on Pump Up the Volume sometime.
I would love that.
That would be fun to rewatch.
Oh, we definitely should, but part of me thinks if we see that, it'll evaporate like cotton candy in the rain, and I don't know if I want that movie to leave. But we should. So okay, now that we've kind of talked all this through and everything, what are you left with when it comes to this movie? Like when this movie, because I know, we just watched about Black Panther recently. We talked about Wonder Woman last fall, and I'm aware enough to know that this movie might not necessarily have a place in my heart the way it has a place in your hearts. What does this movie mean to you? Like now that we've kind of talked it through and thought it through and re-examined it.
I mean, I think I miss like movies for adults, even if they're not perfect. I miss seeing a movie that's just for adults. And for me, I just like Jeff Bridges as the president, in any character. He could be the dude and be president. I'd be totally okay with that. I'm on board with it. So I am okay with it. I love him. I love his performances. I think he's a great actor, and I like his scenes with Joan Allen. I think she's really strong in this movie. Like you said, she's given a very tough part to play.
Right.
By a mansplaining director.
I am so relieved you see that.
No, Joan Allen. That's not how a woman would act.
Exactly. I'm so relieved you guys. Because I'll be honest, I was afraid I was going to come into this podcast recording and just be like the bull in the china shop, just destroying this movie while you both are loving it, and I am just pounding on it. Okay. I feel better.
I still find it enjoyable. I will say I just find it enjoyable and watchable. There's some things I take more seriously than others. There's some touches I like more than others. There's some things, like I said, a couple things I really don't like and I don't think work. But I just find it overall enjoyable. And I think I just like Jeff Bridges as president. I just like that version of a president I really like. And especially in the times that we live in, it would be a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Watching this, I just kept coming back to the idea that a sex scandal between consenting adults in college would be enough to bring down a nominee seems quaint compared to this scandal would come out now about Trump or Pence or something, and it would be gone in 2 hours. They would be moved on to something else.
I agree with you on Trump. Pence, it would end him. It would break him like a twig. I still do think that if any, and that's one of the things that I wanted to ask in this thing is, I don't know if there was photographic evidence.
These scandals already come out about Trump and nobody cares.
Exactly.
It's the least offensive thing he's done.
Exactly. I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree 100%. I do think Trump's a special case. I think if any other male politician had photographic evidence of them running an orgy in college, that would be a problem for them, especially if they were like a holier than thou, I'm not going to be alone with women, Mike Pence type. It would be lights out.
Somebody say he just looks like a thumb.
That's right. He does.
And I think he looks like Hank Hill's father. Do you ever watch King of the
Hill? Oh, yeah.
What's his name? Cotton? I think he looks like Cotton.
To me, he looks like that eagle in the Muppet Show. There's the eagle, that always looks grumpy. Yeah, that's what he reminds me of.
Oh, that's funny.
That's what he reminds me of. Right. Yeah, there's other people here, by the way.
What was that?
What?
There's other people I wanted to mention because there's Mariel Hemingway's in there, and I guess at one point we're meant to think Lainey stole her best friend's husband, so that's another reason why we're not supposed to root for her. But even there, then that's written so weirdly and passively.
Yeah. Oh, it's so. One of the things that kind of made me laugh was that Jeff Bridges and Sam Elliott don't pick William Peterson to be their vice president nominee because of the accident that it turned out he staged. So good move. But they were like, it's too controversial. It reminds everybody of Ted Kennedy. Like, we don't want to get involved in that. So they picked Joan Allen, and it's just like stupid scandal after stupid scandal.
Yep.
Yes.
Like a car crash would be like nothing now.
Yes.
Like, after like you're a sex crazed maniac who stole your best friend's husband.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It kind of made me laugh where they were just like,
Yeah, we don't want to remind anyone of Chappaquiddick, even though you're a total hero that's on the front page of every paper in the country. Right. No, we're not going to go with that. Let's go with the gangbanger. And
we're going to roll the dice on the gangbanger.
That's right. Yes. Oh, yeah. Definitely an interesting, strange movie.
It is a strange movie. It's a strange little time capsule, isn't it, of just 2000 and what we valued and that I just found. And I love these political movies from that time because Larry King always has to be in there, right?
Always.
90s and the aughts. He was 80s, 90s, aughts. Larry King had to be in there. If there's anything in Washington, D.C., that person had to be interviewed by him.
Right.
So funny.
It's true.
This was all part of the late 90s, early 2000s Larry King connected universe. It was the biggest thing in Hollywood.
Everything's about a cinematic universe.
That's
Larry
right.
King
Turns out Larry King had the biggest. All right.
Is there anything else we'd like to talk about with the Contender?
I think I went through my whole list. The other person is Philip Baker Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Here. He's still alive. He's 86 years old, you guys. So he's still with us.
Well, and he's one of those actors, too, that when you see him, you're like, oh, good.
Yeah, this is going to be a good scene. Okay. It may not make sense, but I'll like the scene.
Right. Okay.
It might start raining frogs, but it'll be a good movie. Or it'll be a good scene.
Right.
The movie's dedicated. It's for our daughters, you guys.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. Oy, oy, oy.
I made sure to write that down. I was like, it's for our daughters.
I don't know if they're going to want it.
You too could sit in the front of a Senate committee and not answer questions about a college gangbang
that you weren't even a part of.
Mm-hmm. And dribble badly.
And run funny.
That's right. But nevertheless, we did like this movie. We really liked it.
I know. I find it enjoyable. I don't know how to explain it. I find it enjoyable.
You should. Well, you should. It's just now that I'm thinking about our discussion on this, people could have the impression that we enjoyed taking a bat to it for 35 minutes. But no, we really did like it. We're trying to surface good, interesting, either underappreciated or appropriately appreciated movies with this series of deep dorking editions. So. Yeah, The Contender.
I thought this was a really good pick. I was glad to rewatch.
Oh, good.
It. Definitely.
Oh, good. I had a lot of fun talking about it with you guys.
Cool. Me too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that we would like to say before we say goodbye?
Any final words?
No,
I would say this podcast is for our daughters.
Well, on behalf
I want to say my father was a total sexist before he had me and my sister, and it changed everything.
Yes.
Now he's just a mainly sexist?
Now he's a fatherly sexist.
That's right. Now he's a sexist with two daughters.
That is definitely my father.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. All right.
You could do a whole podcast about my dad. But let's not.
Cool.
Smith, do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope, I'm done.
Nope.
I think I said it. After Sam Elliott's naked upper lip, I'm finished.
So, Margo, where can people find you on the internet?
The best place to find me on social media is at Brooklyn Fit Chick. That's on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. My blog is brooklynfitchick.com. And just all the shows that I work on, that I produce, that I co-host are on there. And I'm on Twitter a lot. Please say hello. Say hi, check out our shows, and, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, and everyone should be listening because your shows are really great. I love the Best Neighbor podcast. I listen to it every week.
Oh, thank you so much. That's like the easiest thing I do, too. We literally just sit there and talk for like 45 minutes every week, and I just post it up there. So,
and I love what you're talking about. I'm into it. Right. Thank you so much for coming on, Margo. It was super fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to come back.
That's what I was going to say. Your reward for helping us out and coming on the show and giving us content is to have to do it again very soon.
I can't wait.
Well, then I'll just say goodbye.
Bye!